Hello and welcome to the session on free and compulsory education. Compulsory basic education claims on status all over the world. Free and compulsory education for all children between the age 6 to 14, irrespective of their gender, region, religion, social and economic status in the society, etc., is a motto which all the countries in the world uphold in the current era. The characteristic aspect of this scheme is that all the expenditure incurred in educating a child should be borne by the ruling government. Nothing should prevent a child from acquiring basic education, and if such an instance arises, the sole responsibility will be fixed on the government. Making it short, the intention of this scheme is to make education available, accessible and acceptable to each and every child. During 1990s, due to deficit budgets and debt pressures, the idea of free and compulsory education, even though born, laid idle, especially in developing countries. The main objective of international human rights is to alter the viewpoints of political society towards the marginalized sections who have only least access to the decision making level. The majority of these sections can be considered as children. Children at an age of 6 should be at the primary school, but in many cases are not, as an inevitable duty of the government. The main problem in implementing free education revolves around funding. Only a few countries in the world have attained this successful funding towards education. For example, 1947 Constitution of Taiwan distributed its total fund for development of primary education as follows: the central government not less than 15%, state government not less than 25%, and the municipalities 35% of their budget. The oldest treaty in this subject is the bill passed in 1962 UNESCO Convention Against Discrimination in Education, which guaranteed free and compulsory education. Actually, a division of education into primary and secondary was challenged by the UNESCO. It specified that education should be a continuous process. Followed by this, other countries like America, Africa, etc., issued treaties which laid the framework of awareness about the importance of basic education free of cost. The prime point stressed in all these treaties is that the education of the children is not the duty of the parents. The government should sort out all the problems coming in the way for giving free elementary level education to the children of a country. The authority to implement this is decentralized conveniently, so that right from the municipality level the program starts. Here, both the ability and willingness of individual government plays the most important role. This point can be easily understood when the situation in countries like Afghanistan, Angola, Congo, etc. are studied. Here, warfare impedes the implementation of any basic law for the protection of human rights. The ruling governments become helpless in performing anything effectively. It is notable that such countries are not even counted in the surveys conducted from time to time on subjects like development of education. Anyhow, regional experiences from Europe, America and Africa recently have undoubtedly contributed to the internalization of enforcement of human rights. Chile stands in the first place in the list by giving free education up to an age of 21. Countries in Western Europe, for example, Belgium, Germany and Netherlands, are placed on the top for achieving and extending compulsory education beyond 10 years. Placed in the lowest level are countries like Bangladesh, Laos, Nepal, etc., owing to the financial constraints. Free and compulsory education in India. An Act for Ensuring Free and Compulsory Education (RTE Act) was enforced by Article 21A of Indian Constitution in April 2010. The amendment was passed in April 2009 itself. Every child of the age of 6 to 14, including a child having different levels of disabilities referred to in the Act of Equal Opportunities Protection of Rights for Full Participation, shall have the right to free and compulsory education in a neighborhood school till the completion of her elementary education, says the article. It mainly aims the unreached and excluded children. This article explicitly specifies that any cost that prevents a child from attaining school education will be borne by the government. Important provisions in the Act are: no school can deny the admission of children owing to any reasons. Nothing in the form of fee, capitation fee should be levied from the child. If a child above the age of 6 is not admitted to any educational institutions, or after admitting could not continue the studies due to any reason, should be allowed to join in as class appropriate to his or her age. No school can expel a child till she finishes education till 8th grade. For carrying out the orders contained in the Act, the local authority should establish, if not existing, educational institutions to meet with the requirement. The central and state governments shall have the responsibility for raising funds for the smooth forward growth of this program. The Act also contains provisions for the well-being of disadvantaged children like child laborers, migrant children, and children with special needs, those disadvantaged owing to social, cultural, economic, geographic, gender, or any of such reasons. With the implementation of this, the common issue of out-of-school dropouts also can be handled to a certain extent, since provision is given for such cases also. The quality of education and teaching by well-trained teachers also are expected to be ensured. The necessity of appointing appropriate number of teachers is stressed. The qualification of teachers can be decided by the state governments. The instructions from the union government insist that local education authority should be formed in order to take care of the admission and further procedures in each area. It also states that teachers can avail 5 years' time to achieve the prescribed qualifications. If the region is hilly or having geographical peculiarities which may become a hindrance to commutation of children, suitable transportation should be arranged by the local authorities. In areas prone for landslide, etc., the bill makes it very clear that boarding facility is to be provided. The textbooks, uniforms, notebooks are to be made available to the children free of cost. All the schools in a particular area should accommodate the children without insisting any records or any fee. The aided schools run by private managements should leave at least 25% of their seats for accommodating children in pursuance of this Act. The unaided schools and special schools also should leave 25% of their total strength to be filled as per this Act. The central government and state government will reimburse the expenditure incurred for the education of these children for these type schools, provided no other financial assistance is being supplied. The funds are to be raised by the central and state governments by imposing and enforcing taxation on their wealthy population. It is a fact that many private schools are reluctant to admit children from economically weaker sections. The Act stipulates disciplinary proceedings, including cancellation of recognition against the managements denying admissions in their schools. Discussions are still in progress to settle this issue amicably. The Act also prohibits any kind of physical or mental harassment against children. Conducting any private tuitions and levying fee for that also is prohibited. Any kinds of discrimination to children in the classroom, playground, dining room, etc. are to be strictly avoided through the careful inspection of local authorities. A school management committee consisting of members of management teachers, parents, and members of local education authority should be formed for observing the progress of implementation of Act. The guidelines for the specified curriculum have been issued in a separate chapter of the Act. It is designed in such a way to concentrate on the altogether development of personality of children. The teaching is child-centered, and the medium of instruction will be mother tongue to the maximum possible extent. The curriculum emphasizes that the child should be free from any sort of fear, trauma, and anxiety. He or she has the liberty to express feelings freely. No board examination should be conducted till the end of the elementary education. A certificate will be awarded at the end of the period of education. Almost all the states have started implementation of the Act, even though not in full swing. Andhra Pradesh backs the first place by posting teachers for every 30 students, totally 26,000 teachers, for implementing the Act. Tamil Nadu government also has given instructions to local educational authorities for expediting the steps for fulfilling the norms. Kerala state, which is far ahead in education, at par with any other states in India, has already attained universalization of elementary education. The Karnataka state government has taken strict disciplinary actions against some private school managements denied admission to local children in accordance with the Act. The Punjab government has already declared free education till 10th standard to the girl children, and this can be considered as a first step towards implementing RTE Act. States like Bihar, UP, etc. have not shown much progress, even though efforts are being put. Anyway, with wholehearted efforts of all state governments and union government, the idea to give free and compulsory education to all children in India would hopefully be materialized in near future. Advantages of free and compulsory education. The main advantages can be listed as follows. Education gives awareness of the basic rights of a person. Exploitation among the people in different levels of society can be reduced. Inequalities in standards of life can be minimized. The economic growth of the nation can be raised. Helps the country to get closer to the Millennium Development Goal and education for all. The reason for exploitation of the people in rural working class is mainly their inability to get acquainted with outer world. Education makes them aware of the surroundings and about their own rights. This is how getting education itself becomes human right of each and every child. It is practically impossible to educate everybody, including adults, in a society. The possibility is to bring the children into correct path so that coming generation will be gaining the benefit, thereby ensuring a brighter tomorrow. When money is demanded for basic education, let the name be anything. monthly fee, tuition fee, development fee, admission fee, etc. The children whose parents are not able to pay are deprived of the chances of getting educated. The nation might have lost already many outstanding intellectuals in various fields in this way. The only solution for this problem is to make education compulsory by strict rules. In this context, the assertion of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights that all the individuals have duties towards the society is to be remembered. It failed very pitiably to implement. Once the scheme is getting implemented, overcoming the controversies, it will doubtlessly work wonders. In the present society, it cannot be denied that the so-called weaker section exists. By making education among the children of this section compulsory, they will become aware about the rights they have in the society. At the same time, they will remember their commitments towards the upliftment of the nation too. The boldness and confidence to question social injustices will be acquired through education. Moreover, when primary and secondary level education is over, that may persuade children to lengthen education further. By the time they are attaining the age to get employed, they will be able to reflect their skill sharpened with education. Education structured in this manner will help children to learn a trade, develop a skill or competence, thereby promising a better life. Millennium Development Goal is a UN system's work which aims to eradicate poverty from the world. All the nations are given call to join hands for the fulfillment of this dream. By making education universal, this goal can be achieved easily. Factors impeding the implementation of Act. The main factors which become obstacles for implementation of the Act are: A. The existence of two types of schools owned by government and run by private managements. B. The increased rate of child labor both in rural and urban areas. C. The attitude of parents towards implementation of free education. D. The wrong interpretations of government orders and procedural delay in implementation. E. Lack or insufficiency of basic amenities. Some private school managements are not ready to accept the procedure of admission to basic school as stipulated in the Act. Their usual way for admitting a child involves oral test, interview, etc. to make sure about the intelligence level of the child. Selecting good students and harvesting 100% success is the general practice followed. Such incidents of denial of admission under the 25% quota were reported in many states. Even if children are getting admitted out of the fear of disciplinary proceedings that may follow, the discrimination in dealing with such students will persist. Eventually, this can lead to the utter failure of the program. The tendency to make children engaged in employments is observed in an increased level both in rural and urban areas. When the reason for this in a family background may be poverty, in a workplace it becomes the benefit for the employer. In some instances, children have become victims for the various types of abuses by antisocials in such workplaces. The wages for a child employee is much less and the chance of protest will be very less. In a sum, child labor problem, which is much deep rooted in the society, cannot be solved easily. The Act mentions the starting age as 6 years. Children in many cases are getting engaged in some workplaces well before attaining this age. So, our primary free education also is equally important, which is not specified in his Act. This also can make hurdles in implementation of the Act. The parents whose duty it is to ensure that their children are availing this facility sometimes appear to be suspicious in many aspects. Among the lower middle class families, parents prefer to join their children in schools run by private managements which are reputed for their performance. As far as the families coming in the lowest level of social and economic structure, the very idea of sending their children to school itself does not have meaning. This works as a main reason leading to increased rate of child labor. All these factors make the implementation of Education Act tedious. Mere introduction of an act will not serve the purpose. Efficient enforcement in practical level is important. The protection of rights and enforcement of rules cannot work without corresponding government obligations. The Union government clearly specifies that local authorities should establish the schools, inspect the procedures, and make sure that everything goes smooth. But in case any complaint or doubt arises, nowhere it has been mentioned where it should get redressed or resolved. If the same local committee has to attend to the complaints also, that will lead to further complications. Specified posts should be prescribed for redressal of complaints and for clearing the doubts. Another common factor is the lack of good, safe building and basic amenities such as water, toilets, playground, library, etc. Along with this, insufficient number of teachers also is a commonly heard complaint. Without such basic infrastructure, the implementation of the Act will not become fruitful. The filling of gap between normative and empirical structure in education field has to progress much to achieve the goal. Let me summarize the session. In this unit, the implementation of free and compulsory education in our nation and along the whole world is discussed briefly. Free and compulsory education in primary and secondary level will be a remarkable step in minimizing the social inequalities. The curriculum being set up for this is different from the monotonous, dry one where the young minds are in the grip of tension and unhealthy competition. Of course, there are hurdles in materializing the program, but a governance which is really committed towards the benefit of common men can overcome any challenges. Hope that you can try to answer the questions given here. 1. What is the status of free and compulsory education in the world? 2. When was Act regarding free and compulsory education enforced in India? 3. What are the instructions of the Union government for successful implementation of free and compulsory education in India? 4. What are the important plus points of effecting free and compulsory education? 5. What are the main impediments in implementing free and compulsory education in India? Hope that you can refer the books given here. Right to Education Primers by Katerina Tomaszewski, printed at Novum Grafiska, Gothenburg, 2001. 2. Committee Report on Education Bill 2005 by Rath A.K., published in 2008. Hope you have enjoyed the session. We can meet again with another topic. Till then, take care.